is hitting record. All right, so now I'm recording there. So we're gonna make some silver cording, and this is a little thinner than Krynic. Not a lot, but a little bit. I can never get this. There you go. And when it comes off the card, it's kind of has a mind of its own. You guys know from when you're stitching, it can get all sproingy and be a pain. So I'm gonna put that so you guys can see. This is my vise over here. You can use a regular vise. I do have it out. It's on my board over there. But you can use the hand clamps that look like those giant clamps that you can clamp cables down with. Those work. You can use any kind of twist clamp that has anything like this, as long as you can get it down tight to the bottom. But for right now, I have measured out 36 inches on my little board here. And this is one of the reasons why I don't like using this kind of stuff. But if it's Krynic, you still have to do it. So we have to literally unwind all of these fibers into the lengths that we want. So I put a little piece of tape so it stays there. And I let the card just drop to the floor. Okay, not that you can see it down there, but it's down there. And now, hold on, I gotta raise you up a little bit more. We are just going, I have two cameras mounted on this thing, and it's kind of going, I don't know, I think I'm gonna fail. So we just start going back and forth, and I find that I'm looking at Mary's ornament, and it's got all these little feet and everything. I'm going to give myself a couple more inches there. You have to kind of be aware if you're doing a tree and it's got lots of in and outs, that you measure enough. Do I do a formal measure? No. I'm terrible that way.
How'd you decide on 36 inches?
Because on the average, I've never had one that was too big for it. Unless it's like a big circle. Usually a 36 inch will do your average 4-inch ornament, and you'll have leftovers from it by at least 6 inches. But it might seem like an arbitrary number, but oh, that's the end of that. Now I have to look at, but just from experience over the years, the 36 inches actually comes from the fact that when you take a skein of pearl cotton and cut it where the knot, let it kind of open up and cut it where the knot is, and you open up so that you can pull the strands off, that's actually 36 inches long. And so I don't take the time to unwind the pearl cotton. I just cut it, take how many strands I need, so then I have 36 inches of it. Now, I am going to cut that. And this is my loop, so I should have equal strands. And then I got to cut the bottom of this from where we were twirling it. It likes to get all crazy. Oh, I'm frozen. Seriously? There we go. See how kind of nutty it gets? So I promise the video is like 100 times better clarity as far as quality. So now you have your, let's get over the light. So now you have your two sets. I am a little concerned this is going to be too thin, but I'm going to go for it. I don't usually do thin cording because I want to make sure that I can cover any mechanics, any spots where you can kind of see in, especially with all of these darts that are on this, these tight.
How many strands did you start with?
So with pearl cotton, I use 10 and 10. A lot of people prefer a little bit thinner, so they'll go 8. Krynic is finer than pearl cotton. So one skein, one spool of pearl cotton, it will, at 36-inch long, will give you 10 strands. So as long as it's the thinner, what is it? See, like this is heavy braid, I think. Yeah, this is a 202.
12 or 16?
It says 5 and it's 24. You don't need as many, obviously, because it's thicker. Whereas the standard Krynic, that you'd use on 18 count is finer, and you'll only get 10 strands. If you do at 36 inches long, one spool gives you 10 strands, typically. So then when you try to pair that with pearl cotton, I would go with 9 strands of pearl cotton because it's so much thinner. You'll have your Krynic will be super skinny and the other will be fat and it looks weird. So now I'm taking some glue, the hot glue, and I'm mashing it right down in above that knot. And the reason, above your fishing line knot, the reason we're doing this is because, hold on, I'm wetting my fingers so it doesn't stick to me and burn me. And I have to mash it because my vise has a very skinny opening. If you use a standard vise, it won't do that. You can mash it right in there so you don't burn your fingers. Just put it in and twirl it down and squeeze it so it's nice and thin. We need, as we're twisting, to have something for this to twist against, or otherwise what happens is it starts to loosen as you're working with it because those fibers can spin within that knot. That knot is, the fishing line knot is not going to be tight enough. So we put it like this and we put it in our vise. This is a fly tying vise. I stole it from my ex-husband a long time ago when I was first starting finishing. He didn't use it anymore, so. All right. So now we take one set of fibers and we smooth it. I'm just gonna commit to the dark side, I guess. We smooth it, smooth it, smooth it. Pull off 3 pieces of tape before you do all of this is wise. You can use a drill to do this. I don't because I like the control that my doing it by hand has. I can feel it a little nicer. So I start at the top of the piece of the tape and you turn clockwise to your right as you roll it on because we're going to roll it to the right, clockwise, clockwise, clockwise. I definitely wore the wrong shirt, creating quite a glare there. I apologize. If that helps a little, reverse it out. It's not gonna. So we're turning right, right. There we go. That might help. And just keep twirling it to the right. Now, ultimately, if you think about it, it's getting really hard for me to twist. Very, very hard. And that tells you it's almost time. You want to start to see, you have to keep this really taut. Okay? You gotta give it the little tug to the right. Because if you let it go, it's gonna try to see how it's trying to curve over on itself? So because of that, you don't want it to do that. It means that this is done when it starts to want to double back on itself. And I put a tack in there, okay? And we're gonna smooth. So Kreinik doesn't care which way you turn it. And I use whatever fiber is the best color, okay? But pearl cotton, if you decided, I don't want to turn left or turn right, I want to turn left and then put them both together and turn them right, you'll see that the pearl cotton, you're working against the way it was manufactured. And it won't ever get tight. And there are certain, somebody asked me about a fiber. Do you think I can remember what it was? No. She asked me about it, and I said, well, maybe you need, if you're going to use just that kind of fiber, maybe you need to turn it left and then back right, because you're trying to fight the way it was manufactured. So we turn it, I just have always done right for both individual sections. And then we're going to put both of these together, tape the end, and turn them back towards the left. They want to go back to the left. They are just aching to go back to the left, and that's how the cording stays together. It's funny, these were the exact same size, and yet I am not getting it. It's going to be tight getting it back to the same. All right. So for you, I want you to take another tack and tack your other piece down. I don't want you to fight, because I unpin the first tack and hold it together while I'm taking out that tack, and I just don't want you to even fight it, okay? Just don't even fight that. We're gonna slide this next piece of tape right down behind these two, and we're gonna wrap it around so that they're together now, and we have a very controlled removal of the pins. Okay? And now they want to go left. Well, we're going to let them go left. Why is this not focusing? Come on. Turn it back to the left. I'm going to take this little extra off. Very controlled. If you let this go, it'll spring up and be spaghetti. And it's very annoying. And we are going to overturn it the opposite way, because it helps all of these align, and they just, oh, see, that's what happens. My thumb doesn't want to work tonight. I've been painting all day, and it's not a happy camper. Okay, and I'm going to give it a little tug, And now I'm going to let it go very slowly and controlled. Now, I would love a little thicker, but I just don't feel like I'm going to get it from this. Okay. All right. All right. So one of the other reasons we want these ends flat like this is because when we put it down in between the two pieces of board, it slides right in there nice and easy, so you don't have to fight it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a dart in right now. I also know I'm gonna wait on the hanger. Usually I'll make a 3-inch loop, but I have a feeling because what we're going to be doing at the end of the tail that we might need to put the hanger from these two areas and make a angle hanger, or instead of a loop. That would probably actually be really smart, so it hangs straight. Okay, so now we move on to our canvas. Okay, and we're going to take off, we want to leave about 1/2 inch of canvas. Ooh, hold on, I gotta move my vise. I can't move my camera over and down closer. Okay, so we want to do 1/2 inch. All right, get my iron started. If I start getting too nuts and get off camera, please give me a shout. Okay. So the challenges of this are going to be these legs right here. And I'm still debating on whether or not I'm going to use mat board or foam core. Mat board has a lower profile and would be easier to wrap it around. All right, so now we use, these are quilting nip scissors. And the reason I like them is because when you're trying to come in and out like this, it's a huge turn. Whereas with these, it's a very low, precise. And even though these are straights, I am going to put a little dart in them because that's just how I do it. And this is where all of the little tiny schniblets that are trailing out of my studio down the stairs come from. Now you want to make sure that you do a deep dart. I'm going right up in there, okay? It is the very last stitch that's there. What is with this camera? All right, try backing it up a little. Okay. anytime there's a curve, I'd rather see more darts than not enough. Anytime you have more darts, it's going to allow you to get that nice rounded edge when we turn this over. I think I am going to do the mat board. So, hardest thing I ever, as far as an ornament goes, had to finish was a martini glass that had a little elephant on its back in the martini liquid part, the triangle part. And they wanted the stem to just, it was only 5 stitches thick. It was terrible. It was so tiny. But some of the properties that I used with that are what we're going to use today. Anytime it goes in, we go in. Do not be afraid to cut this close. Your stitching, even if it's an open decorative stitch, is going to keep it together. If it's an open decorative stitch, then it's the sizing that's going to help keep it together. You know, it's a woven material. Don't be afraid to just commit to cutting in. On something like this, you have to go tight into those corners or you're just not going to, you're going to see waste canvas, and then you're going to have thicker cording or maybe a piece of flat trim to hang over the, to put over the edge so it looks more kind of like a boxed ornament than a standard, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it's just another design element as long as you cover all of your waste canvas so you can't see it. And trust me, the holes are mighty that are in those little armpits and wing. You know, the angel ornament is one of the most difficult ornaments because of those wings and how they dart in and around the head.
Kelly, I was working on one today, and I came in close, and the canvas started to totally fray. It's like,
Well, do you see this?
yeah.
It's like, yeah, don't worry about it.
No?
No. No, because it's, especially if it's 13 mesh, for whatever reason, it's a wider weave. So it's going to, I mean, there's no way, when you see, if you've seen my video that is the candy canes, that stuff just shreds right out. Don't try to go in and sew in with a sewing machine or put any fusible on. It just doesn't matter. As long as you have these vertical ones that are still here that you can pull around, that's all that matters. You know, these, that, like that. Those are the ones that are just going to wrap around. It's going to be fine because you can't have this short of an area of waste canvas and not have it shred. Like that little bit there. I'm not going to keep fussing with it because it is going to shred. Now, when you get around these little tiny pieces, you have to remember, especially out here, you don't want long pieces because then the ends, as you turn it over, it's going to bulk up on the underside. And when it does that, then you have this big bulky spot out here at the end, and the two pieces, you put them together and there's a big gap in between. So you have to be careful of how much bulk you create. as you're turning things over. I have done some pieces that came to me either, they wanted them, they were old and they wanted them redone, and they had no waste canvas left on them. I'm talking, 2 strands on each. And you just ultimately end up really rolling it over just one stitch, because if you do 2, then you get the thick edges. So you don't want to do additional stitching unless you're going to show it as a border, because it just ends up making this huge bulky mess along the edge, and then it looks like a whoopie pie cookie, with that big edging to it. I shouldn't say that. I don't even think I've ever had one of those because I hated marshmallow. But that's what I think it looks like. So now we're going to fold over all the edges. And now she did her stitch line. She did gray because that's how her granddaughter did it, with a piece of pencil. I'm gonna try to keep as much of the gray there as I can, at least where the unicorn's body is. Some of it might go over. Now that I have some of it under, with my steam on, having a steam controlled iron for me is really a godsend. I'm gonna just kind of ease that on. Sorry, I just made that fogged up. And then as it's still warm and has that steam reigniting all of that sizing, I'm just pushing and really rolling that over. And it might seem confusing right now, but this is how we get our shape. So because we don't have a template, it's not around. So we have to have some way to get this shape. Well, you could trace it, but then when you turn the edges over and you go to put it around, it's going to be smaller. So it's really better to do it this way, because you'll get a better sizing and you won't have to constantly keep cutting down your board that you're going to put in. And when it is mat board, it stinks to cut it. That's the other reason why I don't use it. There's a lot of reasons why, but it's one of the main ones. So we're going to try to keep that little notchlet there. I was going to try to do the horn separately for her, and when she came back after having her fill in around some of the hair in the mane, she had went ahead and was kind. Was very kind and filled in those around the horn. My iron is just a plain old Black & Decker. It is not expensive. I think it was like 40 bucks when we got it. But it's really nice because for the fusible interfacing, which is already on this fabric because I had to put a monogram on it, it likes dry heat. And so I can just change out very quickly to a dry heat if I need to. We are cranking this around. You too thick? Yeah, you guys are too thick. So they're 2.5 inches too long for this skinny little leg. Here's one of the tricks. We might not put anything in this leg as far as mat board. Maybe. If we do, it'll be really tiny. Because the backing with the fabric on it will give it the support that it needs don't think I cut that. Sorry, I gotta put the extra set of glasses on. There. And oof, that's tight. All else fails, put your glasses on so you can really see. I guess I didn't finish darting, did I? Tut tut. I am not going to try to leave that little 3 little stitches there. Nope, not happening. Sometimes for pointy Christmas tree tips, I don't put the mat board foam core, depending on what on how bad it is for the darting, how tight it is. I kind of do, here's your point, and I chop off the tip, because all of the waste canvas that's going up there into that tip is going to take up that space. And if I put the board in there, then it's going to leave that really big bump at the end like I was talking about. And then it's really hard to hide your mechanics on the ends of them. And you're going to laugh because we're basically, once we get the shape, we open up all of these little darts that we rolled under. But it's better because, what's this telling me? I don't know what it's telling me.
Hey Kelly, I have a question.
Sure.
Do you need to worry about your fibers being color fast since you're steaming it?
Not with steam.
No?
It doesn't get them wet enough. I've never had a problem with that. If anything, it would be if the potentially the painter maybe used a pen versus a, but even then, I've never had it happen. I've only had that happen when somebody told me when I was very starting out how to do a pillow, and she told me, I just soak it in starch and and so she basically wet blocks, and that made some whatever they used red bleed out into this yellow wool. Ugh, it was disgusting. I was so mortified. So from then on, I never ever did that again. And I also found that starch does not work in that one. You use sizing, you don't use starch. One's made of vegetables and the other's made of chemicals. Interesting thing I found out this past year. They stopped carrying the sizing in my grocery store, so I had to get it online. And I was going to try to use like a starch because it said it was going to be better. I'm like, this did nothing. I was very disappointed. So the little girl ran out of paper, and so Mary just did the blunt end here. So that's why we're doing a whole bunch of fibers to extend the tail out for her. And they're just little things we're going to tuck in between the two pieces and of board. All right. Seriously. Oh, sorry. Bug just decided to invade my territory. It's an old barn with windows that are not, they have gaps. And it's getting cold and everybody wants to come in now. Okay. This is very important, okay? When we trace our piece, oh, let's go for it. We're gonna go for it. We're gonna do the foam core. You always put it face down, okay? And the reason is when we cut the foam core, because we're going down through quite, it's only 1/8 of an inch, but still, if your blade moves as you're going around and cutting, and then you have it like this, and so then you do it here, well, then the mirror side has to be put in and you'll have the wrong shape. So just always face down. And mechanical pencil, and make sure that the lead is down so it doesn't goob up your piece. And we just go all the way around. Keep holding it so it stays, you're not pushing all over. If you have a hard time with that, feel free to put a couple of pins in. I mean, it is foam core, and it'll stay put where you want it to stay put. It's not as easy as, you know, I've been doing it a long time and I don't want you to get frustrated. So, especially with these little legs, they'll push whichever way I want. I gotta kind of pull this waste canvas up in to make sure I'm getting the right shape in that little armpit. This is going to be one interesting outline, I think. Yeah. All right. So this is drawn around the outside, so we have to bring it in 1/8 of an inch. If you have a hard time doing this, take a piece of your board, measure out 1/8 like this, set it on your line, mark, mark, and just do little dashes all the way around, and it'll follow your line evenly. Because this has to sit down inside of all of these, your waste canvas, right? Makes sense that you have to make it smaller. If you don't, you're going to see waste canvas all over the front. You won't be able to pull it around. Also, the other reason we have to do it is we have to allow for the thickness of the material. So say you put puffiness in this, then you have to make it even smaller. I showed that on the main video, the shaped ornament video, where I was making it much, much smaller. I mean, look at this crazy little leg that's going to go inside of this. My fear when I do this is I don't want to bend and break them. But then I remember, oh, that's okay if they have a little bend one way, because the backing material is not going to bend. It's going to be as big as this is, or thereabouts. And so it's going to support that little wonky leg that we've now created because we're trying to manipulate a curved needle around it. is usually what ends up making it bend. Because I get manhandling stuff when I'm trying to use that curved needle, and it's just, whoa. Gotta have a little bump for that little spare hair on the top. Not much, though. It's a fine line of, if I go too small, what's going to happen? Oh, it's not going to keep my needle point nice and tight across the front. But I also don't want to have a hard time pulling that around. Still kind of not sure how I'm going to work with that tail. If I'm going to put cording over the top, what am I going to do? All right, I got to get my little mat up here. I got to get this back on. Okay. And I know you can hardly see it because of the glare, but that's what it looks like. Let me see if I take that. There you go. Out a little bit. So we're going around the inside. So when you start this, I want you to come in from the edge. Let's see if I can come in. And this is down in the mat. That's how I keep control, is by having that tip down in the mat just a little bit so it doesn't have a mind of its own, and just chop a piece off. Don't try to go be fancy and do it all in one furl. I'm sorry, what? I can't hear. I guess maybe somebody's not talking to me. It might be background noise. Okay. All right. And if you notice, I am actually kind of holding my blade in a little bit so I don't have such a large amount of work angled out. When I go to bevel this, I won't have that much to have to bevel off. I know, the dreaded bevel. But it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it. Because it's going to make their little feeties and legs look like they're a little rounded. And I take it out on that little corner. I might have to come back in and chop at the back side of it. Yep. Right. And bring it in. Pull out. Don't fight against the tight curves. You want to use the natural movements of your wrist and your hand more than trying to force the knife to go the way you want it to go, because then you're working really hard and you'll end up with arthritis in your hands like me. Don't do it. Never pull the blade towards you into your hand like I just did. You risk giving yourself a nice big boo-boo.
Hey, Kelly.
Yes.
I know this is sacrilege. This is total sacrilege. But don't you think it'd be easier on your hands to use a frantic winder?
No, because it doesn't get it tight enough.
No?
Nope. And I don't want to have to wind all of that stuff out like that every time because I can do the pearl cotton just by cut and go and counting out. It's just more efficient.
What?
I have genetic issues. It's genetics. It's gonna be that way whether I want it or not. I think my entire family has this ridiculous stuff. As my daughter says, Mom, you're just a dumpster fire of genetics. Thanks. So now I want you to look at how I'm holding this. You're pinching it between your fingers and you're literally holding it at that 45-degree angle-ish to just take and just kind of chop it in. Doesn't have to be one long smooth draw. And have control. A lot of times I'll put that tip right into my mat so I'm holding it and having that control. I don't let this, you can see I didn't really get in very deep of an angle there, but there's so much, she did basket weave on this, and there's so much stitching on the back side, you're not going to see if you got a little deep here and not enough deep enough there. It's okay. What we want is we want to have a nice crisp edge at the bottom, because what we do with that when we put them together where all of these armpits are is going to make a huge difference, because we can kind of bend them together and push them together and close that gutter, and it just really lends itself to helping with some sins that we might have with trying to do a shaped piece that is this shapely. Where are you? When I start feeling resistance, that's when you'll see me do the chop, chop, chop. The sawing, because I don't want it to popcorn, as I call it, where it makes those weird little bunch ups. So that's the only reason why I use the acid-free foam core. Is only because it's not because it's archival or this or that. It's because it's easier to cut. It doesn't have the plastic slickness. It has a little bit of a tooth. This is actually the Hobby Lobby 1/8" foam core regular. It's not even acid free. Be very careful when you're trying to kind of smooth down your foam a little bit. We just burnish it down a little bit. It's probably doesn't do anything but make me happy, but because I found that this 1/8" from Hobby Lobby, those sheets are thinner than the archival, and I really like having as thin a profile as possible. Oh, look at it all. It's getting so tiny, tiny, tiny. Open it up. Get the dowel needle in with the blunt end. Kind of open it up a little. Try not to make those into total shred bits. And it just, expect to see it with 13 count. It's just going to happen. I also like doing the steam edge on circles because see how it's kind of staying forward like that? It makes it much easier when you go to glue. It just does. Because it's not constantly wanting to try to pop back. Let's check and see. This is the one of the oddest shapes I've ever traced before. I think it's going to fit just fine. So I am going to start up here. And what I do is I look at the stitching and I'm looking to see if there's about 1/8 of an inch, if I can see stitching all the way around, because then that means all of this waste canvas is going to pull over because there's plenty to come up and around the profile of the foam core. This is high temp glue. It's been sitting here for a while. You have to be very, very, very careful. I kind of smear it on. I don't put big dollops on, and I give it a second before I go ahead and touch it. Sometimes I'm better at this than others, and you know, I start doing the little dance around the studio when I blast myself. But that's usually when I'm doing cording. I have some paddle pliers that are flat that I use now to compress all of this good stuff down. Now I want to make sure that I'm not shifting these too much away from the legs. I think we're okay. Sometimes when you're putting it on and you're pulling it from this way, it'll take up some of the space that you had for this leg, and you might have to chop a little bit of the end of it off. But the foam core is so thin, you can just use a pair of scissors on it and pull it over. And I don't go back in, and because you're still beveled, it'll still be nice and thin. Oh, I did put glue there. Now, for the most part, that's probably the most I've pulled around of that gray stitch. I'm not really burying stitches. Now, I see here a spot where that's all white, that's waste canvas. So I'm putting my glue gun there. I'm reheating the glue. And then I'm going to pull that around. It's because it's that little weird blip of hair on top of its mane. All right, I think I'm going to start working the bottom. I have so many little schniblets that have gotten up inside of this. Urgh. Okay. That is one skinny leg. Like I said, I can feel it kind of twisting and turning. I'm going to try not to bend it too much. And I don't want to get overzealous and pull it too far and not have enough. If you, in your head, are going, Kelly, I cannot deal with foam core. You do it the exact same way with mat board. The exact same way. It's just be very, very careful when you're trying to cut it with the X-Acto blade. I don't actually use an X-Acto blade. I am a heathen, and I take some big chompy scissors that I don't care about, and I cut right through it. But another reason why I've probably messed my hands up, because it takes a lot of hand strength to do it. Okay, it does not want to. Come on. I'm not grabbing this right to pull that around. Oh, she's gonna give me grief. Really? There. Alright, let's try that again. And this is why I said you could just put a little pseudo piece in there. There we go. There we go. And just basically not have much of anything in there. Yeah, that'll be okay. Try to get the majority of that waste canvas around. I don't know if that cord is thick enough. Trying to pull both sides up at once, it doesn't want to work. And I don't want a big glue glop at the end. I may have to make emergency cording that's thicker. It's pretty good. Okay. Let's do this head part because I need a break from the tough stuff. I am at any of the corners, you're going to put that hot glue right on that edge. Otherwise, you're not going to get it pulled up and in. That's the same thing I did in the video for the candy cane point. That terrible, terrible crack goes up the middle. They're adorable, but you just gotta go for it and get it pulled around. When I see a bunch of fuzzy, gluey spots, I kind of melt them down so that they're not in there fighting the board. And then I lick my finger, and it won't stick, and it actually puts a gloss coat on it. I know, these are the things I see when I'm working and go, oh, that's interesting. Doesn't look like dull yuck glue. Definitely feel like I have serious fat fingers when I'm working with this. I am going to do all of these ins here in the pit. Give them a little bit of stability, hopefully. And I really like to pull that so it gets it nice and tight. You can see right there, there's hardly any waste canvas left. Just what's being held together with that stitching. I gotta find a small enough finger to push it around. Come on, focus. Oh my gosh. Zoom is being terrible about focusing. My apologies. Okay. Ay, ay, ay. Hot. Oh, doing pretty good. This has a little notch in that we cut into, and I don't want to see a little bit in there.
Is there a reason you're not using a bone folder or something similar?
Because the
Do you
glue,
not like them, or?
the glue sticks to it, and then when you
Okay.
go to pull it back, it'll pop off what you just put on. So
Okay.
does that make sense? Like you're talking about using something to fold this over onto it?
Yeah, or even like a silicone.
Because 90% of the time, as it glues, it'll stick to both pieces. Because I have used
Okay.
like a knife before. That's what my ugly butter knife is for. But really, it's just because, and it can be awkward to handle. But try it. You might find one that works great for that. Not saying don't try it. I'm just saying
I'm just trying to think of how you could save your fingers. Maybe
Right.
tried silicone release mylar, like putting it right over the edge and then using the folder over it, because the glue won't stick to the mylar, the silicone release mylar. And then you don't have to stick your fingers on.
I'm a glutton for punishment, I think.
Okay.
I just
Today I thought
it's there probably could be, but you know, when you're in these tiny places and when you're doing these things, having those extra steps to do, I just kind of am the bull in the china shop and just plow through it and do it, even though it, you know, doesn't seem logical.
Diana,
It-
were you talking about something like this? This is like quilting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are handy. You can get a bone folder. You can have Teflon, like Teflon sticks with a either a tapered edge, a blunt edge, and then using silicone release mylar. It like basically nothing will stick to it, and you can iron through it. It's just a barrier that you could put on, and then it should just roll right off.
Right.
But you have to be nimble with it and use it a lot.
Right.
To not have it be in the way. Sorry, my oven is making noises.
Well, we had somebody's English bulldog started snoring in the middle of class. Don't worry about it. It's hilarious. So we didn't think anything of it. Yeah, I mean, there are so many tools that are great out there. I just kind of got antiquated with what I do and didn't get into that. Somebody gave me, Marty gave me some of my grippy things that I use for, and they're silicone, and she said, oh, they're supposed to not, and the glue stuck right to them. And I just, it's like, you know, I appreciate that everybody wants to save my hands from getting burnt, but it's to the point where I kind of have asbestos fingers anymore. You get used to the heat, and so it's only when I do big glops. I appreciate that, and I definitely want people to recommend things like that to newbies, because this destroys your nails. It destroys your skin. Just, you guys know how it is. If you're holding needlepoint canvas in general, it just sucks the moisture right out. And so then cording is just as bad on it. And I finally got these, I'm just don't have nice nails. I never have. And a friend of mine turned these on to these nail wrap things so that I could kind of have something. And they work great, but at least they don't break all the time anymore. Oh my gosh, I'm covered in so much stuff. Okay, come on, refocus. All right. These shaped things like this, they take a lot more time, and well, it's only 7. One of the challenges with this is we do have a monogram on the back, and so you guys are gonna get to see me try to put it on there nice and straight. But it's gonna be a little challenge with this body of this guy, so we'll do the best we can.
Really, on the legs, when you said that you, sometimes you don't, when it's that narrow, you don't
Yep.
anything in it. So do you glue the canvas basically to the back of the needle point?
Yes. If it's that thin, you roll it over on top of it and you put it on top of the waist canvas and kind of put it together in that. You're not necessarily putting it on the back of the stitching. It could push down into it, but sometimes there's just no other way to do it. So yes.
And you still use the glue?
Yep.
Okay.
I'd put a mat board shim in there, or even if you wanted to put like a piece of paper, like cardstock, something thin to keep it off of that so that you have something that's going to tack down to it, because I don't want you to have I like a little body of some kind in there. And that's why I did this, even though it looks, you know, I mean, it's woohoo, it's bendy, but it's okay. It's gonna do its job for making it look like the rest, because there's the problem is when you don't put something in there and you have it in the rest of everything else, you have to make sure that it's going to be, you don't see some weird drop off here between where this foam core ends and the other begins. Wow, gosh, I really hope this isn't as crappy for you as it is for me for seeing the blur. I don't like auto focus. Okay, so yay, we got this far. Now we're going to take our other piece of foam core and, okay, it's going to sound weird, but on a round piece, I always mark which way's up, but it's pretty obvious because when you trace around a circle, after you put the needle point on, it isn't always an exact circle, even though your template you made underneath it is an exact circle, because when you put the needle point on, the fiber might be a little thicker in certain areas, and just the way we stitch it, is going to alter. Sorry, I'm looking at the waist canvas as I'm going around of, ooh, that one still got a spot I'd like to push under a little further. I'm kind of angling it under because if you have it go straight down,
You mean like with a bone folder
what?
to push the... You should use the bone folder for the corner.
Well, actually, I think I didn't cut one of the stitches. So it couldn't get up in. You know what I used for that, actually, just like in my, I used the end of a pen because it's pointy, like the end of this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I used to use for the candy cane inside, because it can't fit my finger up in there like I did with this little armpit. But I want to have this pencil lead going in under a little bit, because otherwise, here, I'll do it with it out. your piece will be way bigger. It's going to come out that much more. And I don't want a big, oh, can you even see that? Double line there? Yeah. So, I don't want a ledge that's further, so much further out from the edge of the needle point, even though it can help hold that into place. Yeah, see, I didn't cut that up in far enough. So when I did that gluing, there. She put a couple extra stitches in there, which is great, but also I can't, it was like 4 stitches, so it made a little bump out there. And I need to put that. Not going to see that, even though I just did that. It's like, why'd you do that, Kelly? You're not going to see that. Okay, so now we trace exactly around the line. We don't go in further. This gives us our backing line, our back of our ornament. This piece is actually the see how it's I don't know if you can see that. It's matte cardboard. This is the archival. And it just has a totally different way of cutting. It's crunchier. I don't know how to explain it, but it is much easier than like the Elmer's. That's the, what is it? 3/16 or something like that. Come on. There it is. Am I still on? Okay. That's gonna help us a little bit. Okay. I have to tell you guys, I was more nervous doing this Zoom class, starting this, because of all the technology issues than having a classroom full of 12 people 2 weekends ago. It's like, oh my gosh, everything needs to work.
Are you still having issues with bandwidth on the Cape?
Well, we're doing good so far, and before we would have had about 10 times or 20 times of going, if somebody calling me, and it got really, really frustrating, and it's one of the reasons why I stopped doing classes. Because it
But
just...
was so much fun. Kelly,
It was not. It was making me nuts because it, but you know, I really think it had to do with the fact that I was using that studio thing, and it was
so
just
I
a,
think the camera thing that you're worried about, so I don't know what camera you're using, but what I found with mine is my Apple is that it has this new autofocus, so whatever's closest.
Yeah,
So if your hand is high,
right.
it may start to focus on that and then unfocus what you like
Yeah,
right now.
and
It unfocus what you're working on.
right. And so that's what makes me crazy with the other thing. I could change it with my other studio thing, but I think that it was just using up so much because it was also recording and doing all these other things. So I'll experiment with it. And I got to tell you, the video you guys are going to get is going to be as good as the ones that my free ones on there, because I'm recording it on another computer at the same time. Okay. Getting there, getting there, getting there.
So Kelly, I have another question for you. If you were using mat board instead of the foam core,
Yep.
would you make them identical sizes, or would you do the same thing?
I do it exactly the same way. The only thing is on the front part, instead of going in an 1/8 of an inch, you're only going to go in like a 1/16. So it'll go, because you don't have
Thinner.
exactly. But I still bevel that edge. Mat board has enough there that if you take that little edge off, top edge off, it helps. You can do the same thing we're about to do, which is to push those pieces together if you need to, because this is so nice and thin. We're going to be able to curve that right in if we need to. So even if it's mat board, I do it the exact same way, and just make sure to bevel that top edge away, and it won't look like this. It makes a square edge, which I'm sure if you've used it before, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. So you would cut one and then cut the other one. You wouldn't cut them at the same time.
Never. Because what happens is when you put your needle point on, now you have a fabric that, or the canvas and the stitching, it's going to be bigger. You'll end up with a smaller back piece.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's why always wait. Okay. Now, I don't want to be able to feel any of this through the fabric. So we're going to take our piece of felt and we're going to put this on. And I do a light smear. And I only do this so it holds it in place and doesn't shift while I'm doing it. And really push down any glue so you don't feel any weird glue lines underneath it. Just kind of rub it. Now we turn it over. And with our fingers on the back side, we're pushing this felt up so that it's right against this edge. You can't just put your piece, this piece, down and trace around it, take it off and cut around it, because that little curve that we've put on there, that thickness, this piece will be too small and it'll leave a little gap there and it just won't finish nicely. So all you do is you take your scissors, and I'm pushing up with my fingers on that edge, and I'm just going right along that edge. Someone had done a heart ornament in the last class, and she just traced her heart out, and then I was like, and she'd already cut everything, and it's like, this is why we don't do it in the future, It seems like it's easier, but there's a reason why I do every step that I do. And this is just going to give it a more finished look on the back. Not puff, but not enough puff. Gets
Is that, Kelly, is that a special kind of felt or just?
so it is 35% wool. You can use the cotton batting that is really thin if you can't handle wool, because there are a lot of people that have wool allergies. So it's just as long as you can use whatever you want. I like this because it's just very easy to handle. Come on. I'm annoyed. I tell you, the one thing that does kind of do it. Hold on. It loves my grid. It catches the lines on the grid and it just doesn't focus. Oh, tiny, tiny nips. There we go. That's good, that's good, good. And it hides the sins of the bevel cutting too deep or things like that on the back at least. This is also quite a thin material. It's quilter's cotton, so it does not have a lot of body to it. That is why I put it on everything I use is the SF, what is it? SF. It's Shape Flex fusible interfacing. It is in the list of supplies. I put it on everything because it just makes the material behave so much nicer. Gives it a nice body, makes it easier to cut when you're doing this next part. So since I did the in-person class, I have not posted the step-by-step instructions because I have to change it because I decided that this next part where we do the fabric needs to be changed up. So let me see. So I want to look at it. I like to try to make sure that the needlepoint stitches and this are going to be straight. So I think I'm going to have to do this a little differently than I normally do for figuring out where center is. I'm going to do a little mark out here. You have to be careful when you're marking on the back side of your material because if it's a velveteen, you'll crush the fabric on the other side and leave an ugly streak. I'm going to go that. And it can still happen with this too, but I think I'm far enough out of it. And there's, how long is this? Let's find center, about 2.5. Think I'm going to hit my head on the camera here. So that's kind of the straight. It's going to be too close to the neck. I also hold it up to the light sometimes and look through it at the silhouette. Looks good to me. Give it a shot. So I'm going to hold it in place. And I'm going to do a rough cut around it. Just because I am bending that so much, I don't want to have it shift. It's getting pretty close. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, grab my nip scissors. And I'm coming in and I'm leaving about an 1/8. You do not have to get close in. If you cut close in and get underneath that foam core edge, you will have a very difficult time getting those darts. You're going to have little white triangles on this side that you'll see. So this is what I learned the last time. Because normally I would go around this whole thing and dart the whole thing. Dart 3. And press it down. Okay? Come to the opposite end and do the same thing. The fabric is much more forgiving about coming around than the needle point is, because there is no hard edge with waste canvas. So we put this and over. So now we know it's not going to shift, and we can come in and take care of all of the rest and dart. If you want to keep doing a couple darts and then going ahead and gluing, you can. It's no hard and fast rules. It's whatever makes sense to you and works for you. So I'm pushing this scissor up in there so I can see that has to go in. I need another one here so that it'll wrap properly around this curve. Again, more is better than not enough when it comes to all this. Now, this is a point that could create a weird crinkle in your fabric. So that's why I like to push my finger up in there just as much to support that from having a weird spot where it just makes a odd bend. Now, if I was doing the angels, I would go in and do those parts first on the sides of the angels. But my thought is with this is I'm going to save that for the last so that I can get this side pulled around and I have something to pull against to force that up in. I don't know if that just made sense to you, but having something, I don't want to shift this tremendously. I hope this monogram on the back isn't too weird. Let's look. Oh, I think it's going to be okay. Oh, phew. Okay. I know you guys don't think it will really do that much by darting it like this, but got some pretty subtle curves on this back and really want them to get in there. We're making sure that all those little triangles close up and are on the back side. You don't want to see any of the cut edges along there. And again, just like I did on the other thing, on the needlepoint side, if something isn't laying the way you want to, just stick that nose of that glue gun on there, reheat. See how that's kind of puckery there? Just put that down, reheat the glue a little, and just press it right down so it's flatter. Okay. Now we don't have to really do darts in here per se, because when we fold them over, they're going to V out all on their own. Might have to put it in a little further. Come out here and put a dart. Okay. I'm supporting that back curve on the underside with my middle finger on my left hand to try to make sure that it lays smoothly and doesn't create weird folds. Sometimes just pulling the fabric at the end can make them pop out if you get a little curve in there. Gonna be kind of tight. And sometimes I don't know why I do what I do. I want to push this felt back in under a little bit, so when I roll this, come on, pinky, finger, maybe. Yep, there we go. Didn't have enough there to make this one go any further. Now, I'm sure that your guys' shaped ornaments are not going to be this convoluted, but now you've seen the extreme case scenario of it can be done. Looks pretty good there. We'll pull, when we pull this fabric, it'll take that little, there's a little kind of bump there. It'll all come out. And this is where you'll use your boning tool. You'll kill your hands. It's very clever. That's the woman whose ornament this is. She probably thinks we're done with class already. Miss Mary. And I wouldn't usually keep that on, but after all the issues we had with Zoom and having to have people call me, I learned, don't shut your phone off. My poor ornament reveal proved that to be not a wise move, to turn your sound off. Ugh. Yeah. Should have darted that one more time. Rats. There we go. It'll go. Again, that's where material's forgiving. And needlepoint is not, because that just rolls right in and closes that hole, that little gap that's there. I need to move those scissors because I keep grabbing them. Okay. Bring up the end. Bring up you guys. Come on, end. Get in there. Just fold right together. A little more glue. There we go. And woohoo! You guys asleep yet? So exciting.
Kelly, I'm just amazed you're getting this shape the way you are. It's amazing.
Well, you guys can do this. You can. You'll get there. You just gotta keep, the more you do, the easier it gets.
The darts are so tiny.
I know. It's that inner curve. I wasn't even thinking that I could have just done slits because when it goes in, they're gonna expand out, but they're gonna V open. I wasn't sure if putting this at 6 was gonna be good for some of the West Coasters to be able to. So Mary was I thought she was leaving on Sunday. She was not. She left today to go out to Washington. And I had planned that. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do it on Thursday and then I can give it to her. Yeah, no. I need a keeper for my keeper. My Google Calendar let me down. More like the person that input the information. So I'm sure she is very excited to see how it turned out. Now there's a whole trick that I do with the monogramming on the back and the front with the round ornaments that you won't get to see because this fits on this perfectly, whereas there's no way I can change the angle of how the back sits once it's on this. It's on this. But with a circle, you can kind of twist it just a little bit to make sure it hangs right. Because I hate flipping it around and seeing that the front and the back are out of alignment. It's just like, no.
So you're not going to share that secret with us?
Oh, I will share the secret. It just is not applicable to this piece.
Right.
No, if it was, not that Mary isn't worthy of having me fix it if it's wrong, but I think just with this shape, it lends itself to a whimsical thing that I'm not going to have to change it. But it's just can be very, very, it also helps when you use striped materials on the back, because you want to make sure that your stripes are straight up and down and they look right when you turn the ornament around. You don't want to look at it on the back and all the stripes are just like a little cockeyed. It just is not a good,
Yeah.
it's bad. Kind of like when people put velveteen on with the nap going the wrong way. It is, when I grab onto an ornament and the nap has a direction and you can just feel it is the wrong way. I know that's really picky of me, but yeah, I'm that person. Sorry, but it's like something's not right here. Got a couple pieces back from a monogrammer like that. And it's just like, no. That's why I have my own machine.
So my best friend does my monogramming,
Yeah,
and so when I tried to explain to her about the nap,
yeah.
and, and stuff, and she just looked at me like I had 8 heads. I was like, what? She goes, who's gonna notice? I was like, everybody.
Everybody.
Hey, Kelly, does anybody sharpen Viscar's scissors?
You know, they used to have, at Joann's, they used to have someone that would come in and sharpen scissors, and they don't have them come in anymore, and it's really too bad. I haven't seen that. See, oh, pesky.
Joanne's does, and William Sonoma will also.
Oh,
Yeah.
will they?
Wait, say
Yeah.
that again.
William Sonoma.
Nice. William Sonoma. Good to know.
Where are you?
I'm in Texas.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of things in Texas. I've never. I have to try. I'm in New York, and I'm getting tired of buying new scissors,
Yeah,
especially with matte board.
it is an art. And mat board will kill it. Just kill a pair of scissors dead so fast. Yeah, I'm the person that does that. Trying to think.
So Fiskars, I think, bought Ginger. Ginger are the really nice sewing scissors.
Oh, did they?
And for Ginger scissors, you send them back to the company.
Oh,
And,
right.
sorry, my fan was talking behind me.
No, it's okay.
For Ginger, you send the scissors back and they sharpen them for nice. Like if you want nice scissors, you go with Ginger.
Right.
Right.
If you're using craft scissors, Fiskars are actually pretty cheap. You can get sharpeners for them. You can get a whetstone and try to do it yourself a couple times. But if you want nice scissors, get the Gingers and then send them back to Ginger to have them sharpened.
Well, do you think that since they bought them out, would they be willing to do it?
They probably won't think they're high end enough to that the blade is, how do I want to put it? Yeah, I don't, you can ask.
Into it,
Yeah, you ask. Yeah.
you never, like with your sewing scissors, you never ever ever cut paper with your scissors that cut fabric. And
you guys-
your scissors that cut the needlepoint mesh, you do not use the same ones for your fabric. You just mark them which ones they are. And the Fiskars, it's annoying. You can probably sharpen them a couple times, but it's probably cheaper for you to just buy them on sale with a coupon from Joann's every once in a while.
The Ginger. Yeah.
So, did anybody see the thing on Facebook about the mother who? It was funny. It was tongue in cheek, but about about mothers who literally rail at their kids who picked up their sewing scissors and tried to cut paper with them.
Yeah.
And my all of the kids sent me the link. I was like, really? And they were like, do you see the problem here? I was like, no, I don't see the problem there at all.
The problem is my children, you, use them, and you deserved to be yelled at.
Crapping up my scissors. Yeah, and now my grandchildren are crapping up my scissors.
Okay, so I have to attach.
I just had to walk. I'm just gonna say I had to walk away from my family that all just surrounded me because my husband broke the rule and he used my
Oh.
extremely expensive and actually irreplaceable Japanese saw on plywood, like horrible plywood, and it pulled out all the teeth, and it was the only one that fit in my to-go box, and they don't make it anymore. And I still have not forgiven him, and that was 3 houses ago, so that must have been,
Oh my
6 months
gosh.
Wait, what were you using that saw for?
I do art conservation, so
Oh.
I use it on extremely fine wood,
Mm-hmm.
and he used it on the kitchen cabinet, possibly Formica, and it just ripped out the teeth.
Oh my
And they don't make
gosh.
that saw blade anymore. They only make bigger ones that do not fit in my.
I love that you're
in my
still
box.
married.
He should consider himself lucky that he's still alive.
Yeah. Oh my.
I love him very much, but he is very, very scared to use any of my tools now, which is probably wise.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, proceed. I'm going to mute myself.
No, that's a great story. I do have to say that is pretty. Yeah.
But he would never use my sewing scissors. I'm sure he would never even pick them up.
Yeah. I'm not looking towards your work table. I'm not breathing near your. Yes. I am.
Did you just make all of the fibers? You just glue them together?
So what I did is I cut a whole bunch. I mean, I have all of these different packs. I tried to find the different colors that were sort of close and kind of fancy. And I literally did the windy thing that I do with the cording. That long, about that long, and then I ended up coming back in and trimming them. I'm just trying to make sure I'm putting the right color in the right spot. I did steam and kind of press the group, and then I want them to lay flat, and so I didn't put fishing line around them first because I didn't want it to look like a little, ponytail type of thing. I want them all to lay flat-ish if possible. And it's probably going to make a bit of a gap at this end, but it'll foof, so I don't really care. But what is okay? And I still don't know about cording around this end. I'm just not sure yet. I'm afraid it might compress some of this a bit much. This is something I've never done before, so it's just flying by the seat of our pants. I did do that mermaid scissor case that had the tassel-y looking thing attached to the scissors. That was sort of similar to this, but not quite. All right. So there's a few because of the way this is, I got a bump. I don't love it, but I just don't. Hold on. That might do it. And, you know, it probably only annoys me. And, you know, no one else is really gonna think that much about it, but weird stuff like that bothers me. So now I'm gonna take and I'm not gonna do it on this tiny guy here. Probably not any of the legs right now. And I'm just rolling this edge, pinching it over. Because what's gonna happen is when this comes together here, okay, it'll have a bit of a gutter there, but by pressing that, rolling that in, it'll bring those two pieces together, and it kind of tightens up the fabric a little. And that's what that beveled edge does, is it gives us an edge we can manipulate to make so it fits better. Now, when I put pieces like this together that have the weird legs, I don't want there to be a bow in the front. Okay, I don't want it to swoop this way. So when I put the glue on, I put the needle point down and I press the back. Because if the back arches a little, I don't care. I want the front to be nice and flat. And mat board is a major offender of this, because what happens is these can be thicker and the material might get a little thicker, and you squeeze it together and then the mat board bends in to meet. Sometimes I'll put a spacer in there, just another piece of mat board to bridge the gap so that it doesn't squeeze like that, because sometimes what happens is you squeeze it together like this with mat board and maybe the glue doesn't stay down tight enough and it comes apart a little bit. Then you pick it up and it has a little give and it makes this where the glue isn't sticking, it's just kind of doing this weird sticky clicky sound. And then are you going to rip it open again? I don't know. Probably not after all the time you've took to get it to this point. So not.
How are you decide where you're gonna put the hanger? Are you gonna do that before you glue it closed?
I really think for the weight of this, if I try to do, no, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna leave some option holes. Let's put it that way. I guess that's the best way to figure it. Because I think if we try to do a loop, it's gonna have to be way out. I think we're gonna do it right above the butt and right behind the pink at this little above, and have it just be the tent loop. It's not too bad, but I might have to put, yeah, curiosity's getting the better of me. I don't know. Yeah, I can't do that now. Huh.
Can you tuck the cording in?
Well, I don't like that that line delineation.
No, I mean tuck it in where the tail goes out.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of my Fabri-Tac and I'm going to, oh, wait. Doll needle. Two out, roll it. There's just a little bit of waste canvas that's showing. So we're manipulating this. I'm sticking it in the last two and bending that foam core inside to press it over more. Hold on. Where's my butter knife? Everything has a job, right? I see a bit of glue there. Once that gets in, maybe it'll push that back side, will push it up. We'll see. Or I'll run the cording around the back side. That's what I might do. So it pushes those up forward to cover up any sins. So we're going to leave a gap right by the butt. You want to put enough, but not so much that it squishes out. And want it up there, so we want to leave some there. Just a skim there, because I don't want it to squish out. I'm going to get some jelly in here, I know it. Cannot believe that actually looks freaking straight on that monogram. Looks straight. My poor machine does not like doing pretty fonts anymore. It's just, I'm old. Why are you making me do this? So it's not the prettiest one I've ever done. Let's make sure I'm not squishing anything out. We want to. Okay, I'm safe. I want to push those down because I want good contact in these so we don't have huge gaps to fill. Good time to also pinch your foam core down and fill all your holes. Any of those little peekaboo spots. Okay. Ooh, I might be able to get away with that skinny cording. Hot diggity. All right. Keep you flat for a second. Now, where to start and where to end this? We're going to make a separate hanger, but I don't want to, I want to see if this is going to go all the way around. I might start and end my cording right here in the tail area. Yeah. Ooh, I think that'll work. Ooh, perfect. Now let's see if I have leftover. It's the legs that'll eat it up. Okay. And yes, I have gotten all the way around and not had enough. Oh, just enough. It's going to be just enough. Oh, and let's see. How long is this? How long is this? There is 24 and 4.5. I was right. 28. When you compress it down, from 36, it ends up being about 28. Okay, so here's a glue lesson. This is the only glue I use when it comes to it's what I use on the Limoges boxes. It is the only thing that lasts and stays nice. So I better keep these on. It says that it's acid-free, waterproof, blah, 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 blah. I've been using it for 20 years, at least. And it does good things. I have teeny tiny pins, which I think they're actually supposed to be tacks for a tack board. Let's see if these will work for this. All right. Get our dowel needle, get our pointy end back. And when I put things on with glue, I want my material facing me because I don't want to risk having the glue near the needle point. If it's going to blurp, I want it to blurp towards the back. Okay? And I'm going to start it right in the middle. And this is the other reason. Ooh, I gotta hold that. This is the other reason why we put the fishing line and then the glue on, is because when we, come on, focus. When we're trying to push it down in, the masking tape will let go. Just fishing line will let go because you're really trying to push it in there and it's just doesn't want to do it. You don't need to put an excess on. I gotta bring you up a little because I'm gonna bop you with the glue otherwise. Okay. I gotta figure out the settings on this because I want you guys to have a better view than this. So we're just putting a bead on. It's just a little thinner than the actual, I don't know, can you see that? It's a little thinner than the actual cording. All right, and we're just gonna lay it down.
So this glue is different than the Fabri-Tac.
Nope, this is Fabri-Tac.
Oh.
This is Fabri-Tac. It's just a different company.
Oh, okay.
That's what Hobby Lobby sells. It doesn't sell Fabri-Tac. It sells Beacon. It's like, what makes you so special that you're doing that? You have direct shipment from that company. I don't know. So I'm just going to pin these down, and I want to make sure to catch the foam core on the backside without puncturing through. Okay? And just, this wants to sink way down in because of this fibers, because of these fibers. It won't as we go. And a lot of times I like to hold it on and keep the pressure on with my fingers as I'm going, whatever I'm using it for. I used to use it on belts a lot because I did ribbon belts. And it's really great for that.
It's not going to pull off?
The ribbon belt? Heck no.
No, the cording on the ornament.
Nope. I don't use this on anything soft. No eyeglass cases. All of that's hand sewn. It's going to be manipulated. This is going to be stuffed right down in this crevice in the gutter. And it will not come out. Now, I have, see the little pucker right there that's happening because the glue from this pink is making it pull away from the backing a little bit. So I'm going to take a pin. Isn't that a, don't they say that? Oh, we're going to put a pin in it and leave it here. Well, yeah, we're literally going to do that. And I'm pulling those stitches over. Okay? Really pulling it so that it closes the gap. And then I'm pushing that down. Now, if you want to stitch it on, then I go the opposite way. Or do I? Nope, I always put the needle point in my left, that side. And I am going to show you when we get to the top. I'm going to sew in the hangers. Because, you okay?
Yeah.
All right. And one of the reasons I'm showing you this is because I promised Mary I would show her how to do this, because she has about 7 other pieces sitting here in my studio that she wants to come back and do. So she's going to watch while she's gone away. The thing with this glue, as you're coming around, make sure that your twist stays tight, because as you go around, even when you're sewing it, it likes to untwirl, and you'll have really tight here and then really loose in another area to keep everything nice and even. That's what you want to do. And you want to just keep holding it down. See, now I pulled it away from the back side. I need to just let that be. Now, when you're done with this and you get around, you let it dry, and you go around and you kind of try to roll it out. Try to, if it wiggles and it moves and didn't get really stuck well with the glue, then you want to make sure to just pull it out a little bit and put it back in. The other reason why I'm not showing you the sewing on these, it'd take me probably another hour and a half to sew around this, because of logistical trying to go forward, come back through to try to catch these and put them in. I've done it, and I would normally do that, but I'm taking advantage of Miss Mary and utilizing the glue because this is how she wants to learn it. If you are counting on me hand sewing, I will give you a personal lesson in it if you want. More than happy to. I thought it was interesting with the in-person class, the difference between, I feel like definitely not with this camera right now with it being so stupid. I don't understand it at all. But that it is very hard to see where I'm catching it and where I'm not when I am sewing it. This foot is going to need to have a pin that's going to stay to hold the end together tight. Because see, I don't want to see any of that. And I don't want to shove that so far in that it eats the cording. That's not the point. So take a pin, we push it like that into the back so it's nice bent pin there. And it pushes that piece back and it's holding it tight. The back and the front pieces of foam core, it's brought that gap back together. Guys, I wish you guys just lived close enough where I could just have you come in and show you. It's a lot more fun for me to have you guys with me in the studio when I'm doing stuff like this.
I have to say it was a lot of fun.
You didn't even let me show you anything. You're just like, I don't want to take up your time. I'm like, wait, where are you going? You think I lead a more exciting life than I actually do. Yes, I am busy, but I am more than happy to procrastinate.
Well, you better be careful because I would have just spent the whole day.
Others have. Others have.
Kelly, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go.
All
I
right.
guess I'll be able to see the end.
You will. I have it recording as we go, okay?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's very enjoyable.
Oh, good, good, good. I'm sorry it's taken so long.
That's okay. No worries. Y'all have a good night.
All right, good night. I feel bad when it goes long. All right. All right, any of these deep spaces, let's tack it down to make sure that it stays tight, but don't let it pull it forward. That just pulled my cording forward. Ah, bugger. Really? Fine. You get to be held for a minute. You're That's pretty good. For being the kind of glue that it is, it definitely adheres quickly. And I don't know if you guys saw the tote bag that is in the next class. That's Robin's tote bag that we're appliquing on the needlepoint. And it's because she used hot glue to put it on, and she came to the Cape when it was over 100 degrees. Crazy. And it popped off in the trunk. So that hot glue is only for wrapping it around. It really is nigh on impossible. It is really tough to sew this cording in a piece like this. Done it, done it, done it. But all right, I got to pin these together because this is our wonky little foot. And I really did not put a lot of glue. There we go. You just sit right there and hold that in. Okay. Yeah. Get in there. Okay. This side has lurched out a little bit, so we're going to put some of that glue in. We're going to pin it, mush it down in so it doesn't squeeze out too much. Pin it. Stab that. And with the glue that's still there, start around.
Kelly, can you use the Fabri-Tac to do to glue charms onto
No,
point?
no, because they're dangly. Well, what kind of charms?
You know the 2022
No.
charm.
I
What
w-
if they just are up against the fabric?
uh,
They won't hold. What would you use?
so they don't have any rings on them?
They have a ring, but I didn't want to attach it by the ring. I just wanted to lay it on fabric.
Oh, I see. You want it flat.
Right.
Oh. If I wanted that, I'd probably... So you want it on the back,
Right.
and yeah, because that would like require sewing it on through before you
Right.
put it on. Well, actually, no. What you would do, like what we did here with,
Uh-huh.
so before you put this piece on, You could literally run some thread up through the foam core, and like what I do for the lacing on the picture frame, where I come up through and then I go back, and you could just use some gold thread, or just to give it something. You could try, but I'd be really concerned about it popping off.
But I'm so good at that.
I know.
So it's already done. So all of a sudden at the last minute I was like, oh, I should put a year on it because he's a baby.
Oh, yeah. You can try. Why
What
not?
about that 5,000 stuff? The 5,000.
See, this is better than that stuff. That stuff stays.
Oh.
That stuff stays wet, in my opinion. I would use this to put it on before I would ever use that stuff. Somebody just sent me. I'm not going to tell you what they sent me, but they were in tears, and I went to disassemble it because of it was sent to a finisher, and it was so bad, and I just said, all right, fine, I'll look at it. I said, I make no guarantees that I'll be able to fix it. And everything just came apart because it was so rubbery. I was like, what kind of glue is this that has stayed wet and it smells just like that stuff? That's all I can figure. Because I used that on, I forget what I used it on recently. And I was just like, this is the worst ever. I put it on with rhinestones for my Easter band. I was like, I will never, ever, ever use this stuff again.
All right, I'll let you know next week whether it stays on.
Yeah. Do it on a test piece. And that way you don't bunge up the back of your fabric.
Okay.
If it doesn't work. If it's easily picked off, but I don't think it would. I'd put it on and put like a brick on top of it or something that's going to really keep the pressure on it. I'm big into bricks. I just did some coasters that are inserted into wood. The base is wood, and then we made custom pieces, canvases that had their initial on them, and they turned out so great. But it had this thick what do I want to say? It's not
Edging?
no, it's that stain that's, like an industrialized, kind of had a gloss to it. So I had to sand the interior to make sure that this glue would stick to it, because I didn't want to take a chance it would release not having enough tooth there. But I stacked them all up and put little foam core inserts in between, and put a big old brick on top of them, and then I put my 5-pound sledgehammer on top of that. I was like, you are staying tight. I kind of like it when I put a bead of this glue on and give it a second to dry a little, because it makes it not as rolly. If you don't have much of a gutter, so it doesn't really kind of want to hold it. I have some stupid bug in my lamp, my big, studio lamp. He's not invited. All right. Gotta get you on. If a little bead of glue comes up along the edge, just run your dowel needle under and push it back under and it'll go away. Okay, I gotta put, I think that's where I'm putting the, put that like that. I'm putting the hanger there. Now we're gonna bring this around. So when we finish off any of our cording, we do the exact same thing we did in the beginning, which is we put a piece of fishing line around it. We can see where it begins and ends, so we want to do it very close, just past that. Where's my fishing line? I know you can't see it. I look like a mime when I'm using this stuff. But you have to remember that when you tie this piece off, you have to tie off another piece just about at least 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, depending on how close you came to not making your hanger length. Because as soon as you cut it, this will unfurl. That's why they always put a piece of tape or something like that on it at Joann's for you. Gosh, now I gotta go out and get some Ginger scissors so that I can have them sharpened. But I won't use bad on mat board. Okay, now we put a little dollop of glue on there. And we squeeze it out. Flatten it so we can shove it down in there. I do want to kind of try to make it married together so it looks like one continuous piece. It's going to be a little weird with the way this, oop, popped it right out. This fiber is in here for the tail. All right, let's put some glue down. Push that back down in a little bit without mucking up. Okay. Just like that. Now, I have to figure out which side I'm going to take this on, because I usually put it, yeah, I can do that. And it's all about sliding this piece parallel, like right underneath the other piece. So you're basically just sliding that under, pushing that, pulling that. Oh, look at that. So it all looks continuous, but we got to put a dollop of glue right there and pin it against. because when we put that tail down in, we pulled it away. I just like my long pins. Those little short ones don't let me pull and manipulate the same way. There we go. Down, down. All right. I'm gonna push. That's everybody. Yeah. Just reinforcing. I'm gonna leave you guys though, because you looked a little sketchy. All right, let's get this top piece, get our hanger done and be done. Oh, I gotta tie off the end again. Trust me, anybody taking the round ornament, it won't take this long. Or the bottle ornament. That one's easy squeezy too. Don't have all these little weird legs. Come on. And again, cut it, foof the little bits up, dollop of glue, same thing at this end. Okay. Now, I gotta put a pin in there because there's a little gap. I don't like it. Guess we'll put this in here. Oof, it's so hard with all these pins. It's one advantage to sewing. I don't have to deal with that. Okay, that glue's all nice and tacky still. And pin it. Just like that. I'm gonna be in so much trouble when I get home. My little dog's gonna be like, "Where have you been?" I think I'm gonna have to bring him for when I do classes this weekend. I'll have a Chihuahua revolt. Well, he's a mix, but still. Come on. There. Just like that. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Are you gonna behave? Now, because it has the frilly stuff on the tail, I don't think I really want to do... Look at that. You can't even see that little bit of waste canvas in there. I'm not going to do a bow. She doesn't ever put bows on her stuff. Okay. Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. It's okay. It's alright, it's alright. Of course. Hmm. Good, good, good. All our seams are good. Everybody's happy. I see a spot that's gonna have to be done. Oh, no. Look at you. Yeah. I'm gonna have to put some glue and pull that in, I think. Because I pulled it so hard on this side, it raised that side. So this is what we're gonna do. You get to see it all. Okay. I'm just laying it right in. I'm wiping the glue off, pulling it in. And I'm going to pin this again. Our little wonky leg is a problem, but not that big of a problem. Okay. Alright, if you guys are still with me, I'm going to do a couple of little ticks. Make sure that I don't like relying on glue for the hanger. It's important. Little kids are going to tug on it. They're going to run around with it. Because it is part of their gift, so where's my little needles? There we go. So, you get to learn how I make a knot for the end. Grab it, you go around your finger once and make your loop, okay? You go pull the tail through once, twice, 3 times, and pull, okay? Now we're going to do it again, holding the knot right there so that it sits right next to the loop. You go 1, 2, 3. And as you pull, it'll pull down onto the previous knot. You got to make sure to work it that way. Then nip off your tail, set it with a bead of glue. Anything else, you'll end up with you'll end up pulling it right through. It's so tiny that this gives you something there for it to pull against. So, challenge of the night, threading a needle. All right, so this is my finger pad. I also use, you can put this leather down inside, and then that way you don't have to use the Band-Aid thing. Okay, and I hold it with that and there, pinch my fingers. The middle finger and is what helps do the angling. I'm going to go into the needle point first. I got to move that pin out. Okay, coming up through. Uh-oh. Only Thursday night on the Cape and we have the police out? Oh dear. Okay, so I'm going in between. Here's where it's coming out, right there. Going in between. Now I would just wrangle it through and make it work, okay? But that's just not how I want to show you because you need to see where it's going and what I'm doing. Right behind, I'm grabbing some material. And when I go into the material, I'm going into right into this piece. I'm stabbing right through it. Okay. All right. Going to come in through in between again of my twists. And I do it kind of in angles. Everything is at the same angle. I'm going to come into the needle point. I'm going to push back through the hanger again and grab some material. So I'm just interlacing back and forth, back and forth. This time I'm going to go down because I've gone through it twice now. It should be fine. Coming back, coming through here like that, right in between. As long as you keep sliding things in between like that, you'll never see that fishing line. It doesn't hurt that this has silver cording because with the shine of the silver, you don't see the fishing line. And then I pull it through and cut it. And yes, I'm right up in the front of the needle point with that. I leave a long tail inside so that if the knot ever, you put a short tail on it, you risk the chance of the knot unfurling. This has a nice long tail, should be fine. Okay, let's go do the top. We are almost there. Again, make the loop. 1, 2, 3. We'll do 4. And just let it pull down. Pinch it. Thumb and between my thumb and finger is the knot. 2, 3. And you basically, sometimes it jumps over it, but usually you can pull it right down on it again. Okay. Oh, too big. And yeah, sometimes I go to glue it and the whole thing goes, oh, it's hot. Boop, and then knot comes undone. But it isn't all that often. Now, if I cannot get this to lay down the way I want it to lay down, I will come in and do the same effect back and forth and even go in here under the needle point, come in, as well as kind of go back and forth here if I can't get it to be the way I want it to be and have it be something that's going to last. You know, I don't take chances with things like that. Especially with little people and when they don't always love gentle. All right, what are you? What just came out? Okay, some of our glue that we glued to the inside. Lovely. Hot glue. All right, so I'm going to come through the cording there. We go with the angle of the cording. We're going through the needle point, coming right up through the hanger. You have to be really careful when you're pulling, when you're sewing into the back fabric and of the fabrics that you choose, because you can create pull marks when you're putting cording on or you're doing any sewing on the back, you know, including that. That's why sometimes I don't do every one front to back, needlepoint to cloth, needlepoint to cloth. Sometimes I'll do 4 stitches of sewing the cording on through the needlepoint, and then I'll catch one that catches the back, because certain fabrics do not love needles. Silks, you'll get literally like a run in your stocking look down the fabric. I'm sure we've all had at some point in our life, even though I don't think I've owned one since I was a child, a really nice top that snags and it just leaves this weird pull mark that just never goes away and it's done. I mean, once I had kids, it was like, ugh, nice clothes, forget about it. All right, so I'm just keep going back and forth, grabbing this as I pass through. Now, I'm going to end this. Let's make a knot back here on the back side of the needle point. And what I mean by that is, so here's my cording or my fishing line coming up here. I'm going to grab in behind, grab a bit of the needle point or whatever it is I'm grabbing. Geez, could you make this more difficult for me, you silly thing? 1, 2, 3. Basically the same knot right there. Okay? And then we're going to go pull it through the front. Leave a nice lead. Pull it extra tight, because then the fishing line will suck right back in under the stitching, usually. Okay.
Kelly,
Yes.
if you're going to sew the cording around, would you sew it on that same way?
So what you do is I always have the needle point in my left hand facing that way, so that every time you come up, let me get a longer piece of fishing line on here. You're always coming up to the back of the cording, so you're always coming in to that back side. So if for any reason you can't, the fishing line doesn't slide in between very well, in between the, twists, then it's on the back side. So the likelihood anybody will see it is pretty minimal. So that's why I hold it in my hand that way. And I go from the starting point of where my loop is usually. So I can do it I can sew the cording on even with it already being down, right? Just like I just did there. So I would, whenever I start, especially if it's like a spot where your hanger is, I come here and I go back towards it, because trying to start on top of something like that never works. So I go back, and it gives me that nice long lead as well with that knot. So if it's going to pull through everything, it's going to take a minute. Okay, so can we get it to focus a little better, you silly thing? So here's the fishing line. I'm going to bring it back through this diagonal, put it through like that. Now I would just go into the front of the needle point, but I don't want you to get ahead of yourself, because you probably aren't going to have the curved needle experience yet. And then come down into the needle point on the front. And then
I think I'm going to glue.
I know, but I'm just saying, if you want to try, and then you would come back up on the needle point side. Actually, I can't have you do that. You got to come back up on the back side, okay? And you just keep angling it back through. So here's my fishing line. This is the one it's close to. I come into, you're going to be a pain. So I pull it through so I can angle it back, and then I come and do a longer stitch this time, so you're a little further down. Okay. I see where the next angle is here. I'm going to go into this one. And I don't tack things down and then sew them on, because again, that whole twisting as you go thing, so I usually have a tail. If you watch one of my pillow videos, the free ones that's on there, you'll see I spend a lot of time showing you how to sew cording on with that as well.
I'll watch that.
And also any of the ornament ones, really all my free ones, I've never ever shown people how to do glue. I always show them how to sew. Because I don't want people, there are a lot of glue haters out there, and I don't want people to think that that's what I do professionally. But I do this for a class like this because, number one, like I said, my friend Mary, she doesn't have the strength in her hands anymore. And I'm kind of there myself. There are some days it's good, and some days I think I need to do something else.
No, I think not a glue hater.
So we
Everything
just
start from needle pointing. So
so all right. So we're gonna knot this off, but that's basic. That's basic sewing right there, so that you've been able to see. And if you're going to do sewing, I want you to keep the hot glue when you're doing the tabs over. Keep it away from this edge. That's another reason why doing a piece like this where we really have to use the glue to pull that waste canvas around, it makes for very difficult sewing because you're going through waste canvas, foam core, hot glue, and it can be a lot. So when I do the bottle one next week, next Friday, that's the shape one, I'll probably sew it on because it's not crazy like this. I mean, this is
it's adorable. I mean, I'm just amazed.
she.
It turned out so good.
I am thrilled that when it hangs, it's a little off. The back. I'm just looking at the at the monogram. But yeah, it's gonna hang relatively straight, I think. Oh dear. I might have to move that back out again. Down to there. That is for another night though. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that I didn't scare you guys off too much.
I will see you again.
Oh yes, yes, I will get everybody. You know, I know that some of the I every time I send the invitations out, and because when I put it in my Google Calendar, I add everybody on so that when I get the videos done, I can just send the link out to everyone by emailing it, and it doesn't seem like it. Some of them that people that got multiples didn't go through. So I have to go back through and reminder emails and hello. So I'm going to try to have this video up. It takes a long time to upload, so probably Saturday you'll get an email with the link to it. It's a private link. Oh dear, I didn't have my chat thing on. Robin had to go eat dinner. Oh, that's funny. So, but I will get it up as soon as possible, and it's only for our classes. Because you know you guys paid to be in the class. I'm not gonna just put it out there for nothing.
Well, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great, and I think that ornament turned out it's darling.
Oh, good, good.
It's darling.
I'm sure it'll be a great surprise for her grandkids. I think it was a really nice thing that she came up with, to just have them sit down and draw something and then do something for them. This was the crazy one. The other ones were little cartoon things that they found and liked. So thank you so much for attending. Diana, did you have anything else?
Thank you.
Did you have any other questions?
Well, I just started needle pointing, but I sew and I'm very crafty, so I have a lot of people asking me to do finishing, and I'm not sure that I have time for that or want to do that, but I want to finish my own first needlepoint project. So, and mine is in a regular shape. And it's got to be around here somewhere. I had it. It's cute. It is in a regular shape. I don't know what happened to it.
Okay.
But I'm not sure that I would do this for other people because it seems to take a really long time. But it's helpful to see.
Well,
And
so here's the
oh,
other.
here's mine.
Oh, okay.
Here. I made a metric card.
Oh, yeah, that'll
I
be
no longer-
easy.
I
Yeah.
no longer live in New York City, so I don't need it for my actual Metro card holder, so I'm gonna make an ornament.
Well, you could make it into a credit card holder.
I could, or I could just continue to use my wallet.
Well, yeah, but it's
You know.
cute. I know. We could make it
An
into
ornament.
who uses a change purse? Ha! Yeah, make it into an ornament, definitely. So, yeah, that'll be super easy for you to, after you've seen how this is done, it'll be really so much easier. And is it 13 mesh or 18?
18.
Oh, nice.
Although my daughter just turned 9 and she is making our her best friend Walter, his mom opened a needlepoint shop in Winter Park,
Oh,
Basin Weiss. I don't know. Apparently, people know her
yeah.
in the needlepoint field. But my daughter has been making a Girl Scout vest needlepoint in 13 mesh. So I'm going to have to finish that, and it is in a regular shape. So
Yeah, the vests, as long as you don't have to line it, because a lot of people will do those things that look like clothes, and they'll literally make the backside, like, they'll make it look like a real
no,
vest.
it has the shirt. It has the shirt.
Oh, it does.
and
Okay,
the
good.
vest with it.
Good.
Yeah, so it could just be an ornament or an applique or a bag or something.
Right.
This class was helpful in seeing how you do it. I'm definitely much more of a sewer, so I might do things a little bit differently just because of my comfort zone.
Oh,
But,
sure.
it was really helpful to see how you did it, and especially how the needlepoint canvas folds and just
And it behaves,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that you have a lot more leeway than you think. You do. So, definitely don't be afraid to cut up to the edge of the canvas. And if you need help, I'm here. You're more than welcome to get a hold of me and brainstorm if you need it.
I guess the one question I had while I was looking, do you ever use Freychak?
I don't, because it doesn't stand up to the coarseness of the needlepoint. There isn't enough. The where I used it was in the severe darts of like corners where with like a velveteen that loves to split. I mean, it loves to split. And I have used it there to try to combat that, but I find that the fusible interfacing helps that just as much because it's bonded to the back. But as far as on actual needlepoint canvas, it's just too large of a weave to really help keep all of that wispy's waste canvases from shredding. But
Okay.
if you have sewing experience and you're a crafty person and you do art restoration and everything else, this is gonna be a breeze. My thing with doing other people's pieces is it is time consuming. People don't understand how long it takes to block pieces, and I get things that are so wonky you wouldn't believe it because they don't use the stretcher bars, and there's a lot to blocking pieces like that. And somebody put a question on the self-finishing and, well, what do you charge? And it's like, it's all part of it. You don't, oh, I charge extra, I do. It's like, yeah, it's all, you get the good ones that don't take that up much time, and then you have the other ones that do. And it's a lot of pressure if you have a full-time job too, because people want stuff
Yeah.
when they want it, even if they're
I
friends.
get that in my professional life.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes when they're friends, they're not always, not that bosses can be diplomatic, but yeah. Yeah. So, if you ever get to a point later in life, it is a good, sub income if you want to get into it. But there are some things where I'm literally, the stitching is so insane and so beautiful, and it is intimidating when I cut into it because I look at it and I say, that is irreplaceable. And what if I muck it up? and I have to like block it out of my head and just do it and not think about how many hours it took this person. That's this full-size stocking that I'm doing for the woman that distributes my line. It's huge. It's a huge piece, and I just look at all the stitching and how long it took, and it's scary. So, yeah, I definitely advise you do your stuff and keep it joyful.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and save yourself some money. So,
Yes. I mean, yeah. I feel like I couldn't. I feel like if I'm gonna do the needlepoint and I have some basic instruction in how to do the finishing, I won't send it to someone else to do the finishing. I will do. I want to do my own.
yes.
Because I'm capable. But yeah, I have two small kids to keep me busy.
Oh my gosh, right?
And so I will enjoy finishing my own project.
All right.
Special favors for friends.
Yes, very special. All right, you guys take care.
Thank you.
Have a good night. You'll be able to see me actually on the video because I'm on a screen overlay on that if you ever watch it again. But yeah, I was here. We'll do this. There we go. You guys have a good night. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.